Good afternoon and good morning to those of you out west, and welcome to today's democast from the Construction Specifier and Henry, a Carlisle company. My name is Farheen. I'm the Associate Editor for the Construction Specifier, and I'll be moderating today's presentation. Just to cover a few housekeeping items before we get started, if you have any questions during today's democast, please enter them using the Q&A section, which you can find at the bottom of your Zoom window. We will address as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation. Zoom does have a raise hand function, but since we'll be keeping everyone's mics muted, only use the Q&A instead. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties during the democast, you can enter a message in the chat, which you'll find right next to the Q&A, and we'll do our best to help. Today's democast is being recorded and will be available on the Construction Specifier's website by this time next week. Now, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Chris Pansner. Chris is the Waterproofing Product Manager at Henry, a Carlisle company, managing the full portfolio of above and below grade waterproofing solutions. He specializes in cold, fluid-applied, hot, rubberized asphalt and self-adhered waterproofing membranes, supporting architects and contractors with their design and installation needs. He holds 2 bachelor degrees from the University of Delaware in Marketing and Management. Chris is also Pragmatic Management Certified Level 1 PMC1 through the Pragmatic Institute. In this democast, Chris will discuss the Henry Prodeq System. The Henry Prodeq System is an innovative instant-setting waterproofing system commonly used for plaza decks, roofs, split slabs, terraces, as well as water containment and UV-exposed systems. The high-performance seamless membrane allows for complex building design and requires no welds, laps, termination, bars, or surface flashings. When being installed as part of a green roof system, the Prodeq system helps lead to faster installation as it requires no protection board or root barrier. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. Please take it away.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, and thank you for everyone for joining today. So like Farheen mentioned, we're going to be discussing the Henry Prodeq System. So as we go throughout this presentation, we'll kind of start at a high level on a little bit of history and backstory behind the system, how it's come to market, the different uses, different positions on the building envelope that we use this today, and all the features and benefits and advantages to using the Henry Prodeq System compared to some other traditional waterproofing systems. So just to give a very high-level overview, and we'll kind of dig deep into these a little bit more as the presentation continues on, but the Henry Prodeq System has a couple of key advantages when compared to some other waterproofing technologies out there. Really, the way that we position this are in a number of ways. One is it's really great for fast-track construction, and we'll get into some of the reasons why that is. It has great long-term durability, and we'll talk through some of the track record of this system in the marketplace and you know why that's a big importance. And then again, the long-term performance. So as we talk about the performance of our buildings and building envelopes over the lifespan of that building structure, we really want to have a waterproofing system that's going to be able to perform at its highest level throughout that entire life cycle. So we'll get into some of the ways that this system is able to achieve that. So like I mentioned, just to give a brief background on this technology and this system, I like showing this slide and then the subsequent slide, because there's a lot of folks within the building envelope market or the commercial construction space who haven't really been exposed to polyureas or the Henry Prodeq system, and we're all a little hesitant to be trying out very new innovative technologies and technologies that are first to market. One of the things I like to tell people and just kind of talk through and that they understand is that this technology and this system is not new, right? So the Henry Prodeq system has roots dating back to the early 1980s. This technology and the system was developed over in the European market, specifically Germany, to really handle the rigors of the bridge deck construction space. So you see some of these pictures here. These are actual installation pictures from the Henry Prodeq system way back when. You can see some of these are relatively old, but again, it kind of speaks to the fact that this system has been in the market for quite a long period of time. So fast forward a little bit, the early 80s, like I said, was over in European market, specifically for bridge decks and things like that. In the early 1990s, that technology and the Prodeq system expanded and made its way over to North America. And again, predominantly it was installed in the Northeast market, like New York City and Boston, really kind of focusing on those bridge deck markets again. And it's kind of started to trickle its way into plaza deck spaces and roofs and vegetative roof systems and things like that. That continued to grow and expand. And now we are where we're at today, where this system is used on a whole variety of different places on a building structure, from plaza decks, built-up roof systems, vegetative roofs, and this can also be used in water tanks, water features, potable water, things like that. And we'll kind of dive into some of each one of those different applications as we get further into the presentation. So really, this system, like I mentioned, it's been around for 30 years. It's a very extensive track record of success throughout the life cycle of this product. So it's not a new product per se, but it is kind of a new and exciting change to some of the other traditional waterproofings that are out there, like hot rubberized asphalt or sheet applied waterproofing and things like that. So we'll get into some of the benefits compared to those systems a little bit later. So as I mentioned, the Prodeq system, it's a polyurea technology. So we have a couple of different products within this portfolio. Some are pure polyureas, some are hybrid, where it's a polyurea, polyurethane combined technology, and there's some advantages to both and why we use them in certain areas. We have three kind of subcategories that we position this product in, and you'll see that over on the right-hand side of your screen. So we have the Henry Prodeq Plaza Deck system, which is easily recognizable by the bright green membrane, which you'll see here in a little bit. We have our water containment system, which is used for both non-potable and potable water. And then we have a UV exposed system, which is that gray membrane, which we'll typically use on exposed roofing applications and things like that. Now, some of the features and benefits of this system, again, when we talk about polyurea and Prodeq compared to something like a hot rubber, for instance, one of the great things about this, and we'll see some videos here in a little bit, is it's a spray applied system and it's an instant setting system. So really what that means, and the videos will do show this in a good way. You know, instant setting, it truly is instant setting. So when this sprays out, it's a two-part system that gets mixed at the nozzle of the spray gun. And once it hits the deck, that material is curing within seconds. So, you know, we call that a gel time. Gel time of our product is anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds. And really what that means is you're able to spray down, and in 10, 15 seconds, you can touch that material and it'll be dry to the touch. Now, we still recommend that folks wait about an hour before it gets walked and trafficked and things like that. But you can see the benefits to a system like that, where you're not waiting, 8, 12, 24 hours for a system to fully cure before we're staging equipment and having other trades traffic that membrane and things like that. So when we talk about, construction throughput and efficiency, there's huge advantages to a system like that compared to traditional technologies. Additionally, before we jump forward, we talked about the durability. It's an incredibly durable system. So this is kind of an example of what this looks like. So this is the actual Plaza Deck system, just in sheet form. So you can see it's very, very robust, but I can twist this. It's very flexible. I can pull this. I'm not a very weak guy, and I'm pulling pretty hard here, and you can see that it's not pulling apart. It's not tearing. So the physical properties on this type of membrane are pretty impressive for what it is. We've seen job sites go down where we'll spray this, and then you'll have loaders and things like that drive over this without really any damage. Now, again, it's not something that we obviously recommend, but we've seen that it can be done and speaks to the strength of the overall system. And additionally, there's no VOCs, no odor with this system, which, again, when we're working in small confined spaces, that's a benefit as well. So just quickly, again, I talked a little bit about comparing to more traditional waterproofing type systems out there, like hot rubberized asphalt. And there's certainly a lot of areas where hot rubberized, it's a tried and true waterproofing, right? There's a lot of folks out there that have installed it for many, many years. It's a great system. But there's certainly applications where a technology like the Prodeq system is going to have advantages. And this just kind of outlines that. So specifically, I want to focus on the installation speed per day. Now, this is averages, right? This throughput is going to vary for a number of different reasons, but this is just kind of a high level average when we're comparing one crew during one shift for a typical installation. So on the Prodeq system, typically what you'll find is you'll get about 4,500 square feet per day per crew. And now that's an 8-hour working day. Now that can go up or down depending on certain circumstances. And then when we compare that to a hand applied system like a hot rubberized asphalt, again, typically what you'll find is with a larger crew for the same type of surface area, you're getting about 2,000 to 3,000 square feet per day. Now, one of the things that can really impact that is if you have very complex details, pipe penetrations, a lot of curves, the throughput of the spray applied Prodeq system is going to be significantly better than something like the hot rubberized asphalt or another hand applied system. That paired with the traffic ready time, excuse me, you're going to get a lot of efficiency advantages with this. So this is just a quick kind of buildup of the different system components. So this is a true system. So we talked a little bit about the spray applied component of this, the FX400. There's some additional components such as a primer, as well as wear coats and top coats that we can add on to that depending on the project circumstances. So to touch on each one of these just very, very quickly, we have two primary primers that is a part of this system. We have our Henry SD primer, is an epoxy primer that gets a sand broadcast into it. Now there's two reasons for broadcasting that sand. First and foremost, one of the big advantages to doing that is by broadcasting sand into that epoxy primer, your overcoat window is nearly indefinite. So what that means is if we put our primer and our sand down, that crew could come back a week from now, 30 days from now, just make sure that there's no dirt or debris on that sand, and we can spray our Prodeq membrane, and there aren't going to be any issues there. The second reason for it is to gauge mill thickness of the Prodeq membrane for the installer. So as you saw on a previous slide, we like to install this at 100 mils. The size aggregate that we use, when that sand is completely covered by the membrane, we know that we've achieved our 100 mils. So just to give a quick visual, excuse me, quick visual representation of this. So this is, hopefully we can all see this. So this aggregate section over here is going to be the sand with aggregate. And then you'll see we've come over and sprayed with our Prodeq membrane. And again, to know that you've gotten your full 100 mils, that aggregate is now completely covered. You're not seeing that poke through the membrane. So that's a good way to understand that we've gotten the right mill thickness. We also have our GC epoxy primer, which is a moisture mitigating primer. So if we're going over a green concrete substrate or something like that, again, this system's all about efficiency and throughput. So having a green concrete primer allows us to go over concrete 5 days after forms are removed. So again, we're speeding up that construction cycle and reducing the amount of time it takes to install the system. Now this, as I mentioned, this is a spray applied system. So this does use large gray coat pumps. So this is a picture of a typical setup that you'll see. So plural component machine. Now working with different manufacturers such as Henry that provide the Prodeq system. Now Henry has an actual tech services program that you can rent these pieces of equipment through. So the contractor, if they're new to this type of technology or don't have this equipment already pre-existing within their fleet, they can rent this through Henry. We're providing a technician that'll go to site, make sure everything is running smoothly, the equipment, they'll train the contractors on site, make sure that everything is being installed correctly and appropriately. So that's another big advantage to this system, is you do get some on-site quality control from the manufacturer as a part of the technical services program. So these are numbers just to run through this real quick. So again, I won't call on anything specific here, but you can see it's a very robust and durable membrane when we get into the nitty-gritty of the actual physical properties. And you saw earlier me twisting and trying to tear it and everything else. It's a very durable membrane. Now I mentioned we do have potable water and non-potable water versions as well. So an NSF 61 approved version, we'll do water tanks, potable water tanks, storm runoff tanks, things like that. And hopefully this this video is playing okay and coming through all right. But this is us doing the containment tank. You see we're spraying the upturns, then they'll go and spray the walls and then the deck. And I'm going to play this video and then speak over it as it's playing. So one of the big advantages, and really where we start to see the efficiency of this system compared to a hand applied system, is when we have a lot of details, complex details, curbs, drain pipes, penetrations, drain bowls, things like that. So what you'll see here is you'll see the drain bowl in the center of this deck. you'll see our technician or the contractor is coming up on this deck, and now he's detailing it, just spraying around the drain bowl. Now, this is a great example of one of the advantages to this type of system, because if you can imagine, if you're doing a hand-applied system, doing the drain bowl like that's going to take a significant amount of time for a contractor. We're talking about cutting all types of reinforcing fleece, embedding that fleece in all those little nooks and crannies to make sure that that's a watertight and reinforced waterproof detail. Whereas with a Prodeq system, it's a couple seconds spraying around that drain bowl, and then you're continuing on with the installation. And again, here's another example. I believe this was on top of the New York City Police Department building. But again, if you can imagine, there were a little over 100 of these details on this roof deck. If you can imagine having to do each one of these with a hand-applied system where you're cutting reinforcement, cutting fleece, it's a very laborious process. But with Prodeq, that doesn't require any reinforcement on details. You're just able to spray over this with complex detail like this and move on to the next one. And it's going to be watertight. You don't have to worry about any water intrusion or anything like that. So there's a lot of efficiency advantages with this type of system. And again, just to continue driving home this point, so this was a water containment vessel. And you can see we have a couple of machines running on this job, but you can see all these vertical support columns that needed to be waterproofed and detailed. And again, in a traditional type waterproofing system, you're going to be reinforcing those details and those upturns. It's going to take a significant amount of time. Now, one thing I do want to point out, you'll see in all these videos, the installers are wearing Tyvek suits and full face masks. So the reason for that is not because of VOCs or anything like that. But you do want to be cognizant of this material because it's spray applied. The material is actually atomized as it's getting sprayed out of the gun, so you have a lot of really fine particulates as it's going down onto the deck. So that's why our contractors are wearing full face respirators and Tyvek suits, just so we make sure that we're protecting them from any of that type of material. So it's not a noxious chemical issue, but more of just a particulate issue. Again, this is on a large roof deck. As I mentioned, one of the big advantages when we're talking about large areas, the spray applied system and Prodeq has a lot of advantages compared to a traditional hand applied system. You can see on the left here, this is a kind of a makeshift wind barrier. So this was on top of a high rise in New York City. There was a lot of wind that day. So the installing contractor will create just a temporary wind barrier just to kind of block some of that wind, because this is spray applied. If you have large gusts and things like that, and you're not kind of blocking that wind, you can get some, spray that's kind of blowing away from the actual installation area. But it's a pretty simple solution to solve on site. And again, here's another example of us doing a couple of water retention areas and areas that's going to have some trees and things like that. So this system can be applied vertically and horizontally. So we can do foundation walls, we can do plaza decks, inverted roof systems, vegetative roof systems, water tanks, a whole variety of different applications. And again, as I mentioned, just from a complex details standpoint, this is the culture shed in New York City. So this is a really neat building that we did. It's a performing arts center, and that large kind of canopy that you see in the lower right can actually move. It's a moving building. And these two pictures on the left and the top right are pictures of the tracks. So there's occupied space underneath this whole area. So they wanted to make sure that that whole deck was completely waterproof. So they had to waterproof all these different bolts and penetrations for those rail lines. And again, if you can imagine trying to do that with a typical hand-applied reinforced system or something like that, it's going to be very, very difficult and time-consuming. I believe that when the original hand-applied system that was spec'd for this job, I think the installing contractor had planned close to a month or 6 weeks to actually do the installation. And then we flipped this to Prodeq, and they were able to do the installation in under a week. So you can see how, from a labor savings, from an efficiency standpoint, you're able to gain a lot with the Prodeq system compared to other systems. And from a substrate standpoint, again, we can apply to a variety of different, typical construction substrates. Concrete and metal are going to be the most common that you'll see, but we can do PVC, exterior grade sheathing, masonry walls, SBS systems as well. And then just in summary, before we get into the question component, like I mentioned, really the key benefit to this system is from detailing complex detailing requirements, pipe penetrations, things like that, improving your efficiency and throughput. It helps drive down total install cost as well, because you're reducing and taking out a lot of that labor component. And especially in today's world where labor is hard to come by and very expensive, anything you can do to kind of reduce that is going to be hugely advantageous. And again, long-term durability. So these systems, like I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, we've had systems installed for 30 years, and they're still in service today without any issue. We're continuing to do more and more in a whole variety of different applications, which has been great. And again, from a durability standpoint, I test anybody to try to find a waterproofing system that's going to be more durable than that. And again, not to say that it can't be damaged, because it certainly can. Nothing is impenetrable or impervious, but it's significantly more durable than the variety of different waterproofing systems that are out there today. So with that, Farheen, I'll turn it over to you if we want to open things up for questions.
Great. Thank you so much for this excellent presentation. We do have some time for questions now, so just open the Q&A located at the bottom of your Zoom window and post your questions. We already have a few coming in, so let's get started with these. The first question is, can the exposed system be colored to any color?
Yeah, so we do. So the spray component cannot. However, part of this system construction is we do have top coats that are available that are UV stable, UV color stable, and you can do any color matching within the RAL color spectrum. So that's a typical color spectrum that Sherwin-Williams and typical paint companies will use. So we do have the ability to do color matching, yes.
Thank you. What are the climate conditions necessary aside from wind?
Yeah, so typically, your installation minimum temperature window is 40 degrees Fahrenheit for the spray component. Now, from an upper maximum temperature, we can install up to about 100, 110 degrees, but your minimum window is going to be 40 degrees. Obviously, you can't install in rain or anything like that, but so your temperature window is between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and around 110 degrees Fahrenheit.
Thank you. And are there any temperature restrictions?
Yep. Yeah, like I just mentioned, we can't install below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and typically we would not install anything above 110 degrees Fahrenheit.
Thank you. Can the system be sprayed over insulation board?
Yes, it can.
Thank you. How does the membrane deal with movement?
Yeah, so one of the things that's kind of hard to see when I was doing my visual, but we did have it up on a slide. So it handles movement very well. So it passes the low temperature crack bridging test that's specified in ASTM 836, which is a standard for cold fluid applied waterproofing. So it does handle movement, your typical building movement and thermal expansion and contraction very well.
Thank you. What is the recommended thickness testing requirements?
Yeah, so for the field membrane, we're going to want to have 100 mils on the field. Now, on all your detail areas, so pipe penetrations, curves, things like that, typically what we'll do is we'll do a pre-stripe of 40 mils, and then we'll come back over with an additional 100 mils. So 100 mils on your horizontal or vertical field surfaces, and then 140 mils on all your detail areas.
Thank you. Can this product be applied over mineral surfaced cap sheet roofing system?
Yeah, so SBS systems, mod-bit systems, you can apply this over those type of granulated cap sheets or base sheets.
Thank you. How do you test for substrate moisture? For example, it rained the night before.
Yeah, so there's two ways. The common but less scientific method is obviously the plastic sheet method, right? Typically, though, like I mentioned, we'll have a technician on site with this, so they'll have moisture meters that they can do moisture readings on the concrete deck to make sure that we're within our threshold before we start doing the application.
Thank you. What are the warranty requirements for Prodeq?
So warranty requirements, again, it depends on the level of warranty that you want. Henry offers a variety of different warranty levels, from just a material warranty up to what we call a gold seal warranty, which is both a material and labor component to that warranty as well. Different requirements for the different levels of warranty, but typically for that kind of top tier level of warranty, will require a technician on site for that, just documenting, making sure that all the installation parameters are met.
Thank you. We have an audience member who's wondering about overspray cleanup.
Yeah, so typically like I said, it's instant setting, and it's an atomized system. So if you do get any amount of overspray, usually what you'll get is like a very fine, they're almost like little beads. So you'll just brush those off. Now, obviously, if it's something where you're spraying and there's something directly next to where you're spraying, we'll want to protect that area. But if there are any particulates that kind of go beyond the direct installation area, typically just small beads that you can kind of rub off.
Thank you. What about cure time? If 45 degrees at installation, but low temperature is below 25 overnight, is that acceptable?
Yeah, so as long as the installation temperature is within our window, that 40 to 110, there's no issues from a cure standpoint. So this material does not cure slower or faster depending on ambient temperature. So even if you're installing at 45 degrees Fahrenheit, it'll be fully cured, or it'll be cured within, that hour window. And then a full cure for physical properties is about 12 to 24 hours. But yeah, so if you're installing, let's say 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 45 degrees, and that's expected to get down into the 20s late into the night, there's not going to be an issue from a curing standpoint.
Thank you. What is the repair procedure if and when damaged after installation and pump equipment is no longer on site?
So if there's not equipment on site any longer, we do have a couple of different hand-applied options to do small repairs. The most common that we'll refer to is our Henry Prodeq System, which is a PUMA, another cold hand-applied system. But that's typically what we'll use for small repairs and things like that if the equipment has already left the job site.
Thank you. Should this surface application be applied on the back of parapet walls that received Prodeq on the roof surfaces?
Could you repeat that question?
Sure. Should this surface application be applied on the back of parapet walls that received Prodeq on the roof surfaces?
Yeah, maybe we'll take that question offline. I'm not fully understanding the question, so we can answer that one offline if you don't mind.
Sure, no worries. Can this be a walkable deck?
So yes, but there are, if we're going to be fully exposed in like a traffic type situation, there are additional wear coats and top coats that we would want to install on top of this. As we mentioned in the slide, you saw there are wear coat and top coat components. So we can do walkable surfaces like that. Typically, we would not want to just leave this membrane exposed as a walkable surface, but we do have those options available.
Thank you. Is there a peel and stick version of the product available as well?
At this time, we do not have a peel and stick version of Prodeq.
Thank you. Does this product have Florida product approval?
It does have Florida product approval as well as Miami-Dade NOA. We're obviously, for those that are familiar with those, it's all assembly based, so we're continuing to build out the existing assemblies within those approvals, but we do have both of those approvals today.
Thank you. Are installation contractors approved and trained by the manufacturer?
Yeah, we do have, for the gold seal level warranties, as we mentioned previously, you do need to be a gold seal authorized contractor, and Henry does offer trainings and classes for those contractors that want to get approved for those level of warranties.
Thank you. What kind of writing software systems will this product available in?
Could you repeat that question?
What kind of writing software systems will this product be available in or usable in?
I'm fully understanding that question either, so maybe we take that one offline as well.
Sure. Is this product available in gray or white finish instead of green?
Yeah, so the spray component of this, we have this obviously bright green. We have a blue, what you saw earlier, and we also have a dark gray in the spray component as well. So those are the three colors that we have for the spray. And then as I mentioned previously, if you want a custom color or a white or something like that, we do have different top coats available that you can put on top of this for whatever color you'd like.
Thank you. How soon after installation can Prodeq accept foot or vehicular traffic?
1 hour after installation.
Thank you. And last question I can take here is, how can our audience get a copy of the technical data of this product?
Yeah, so if you want to go to henry.com, you can go to the fluid applied waterproofing kind of product page on there, and you'll find all the Prodeq information as well as the technical data sheets, guides, specifications, all different tech talks on that website as well.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you everyone who joined us today. That was all the time we had for questions. Just a reminder before everyone leaves, if you would like to rewatch today's presentation or share it with a colleague, we'll be emailing the link to the recording to everyone who registered for the democast within a week. So keep an eye out on your inbox. Finally, after you shut down Zoom, you'll be taken to a survey to provide feedback on your experience today. Please take a moment to complete the survey as it helps us to continue to serve your needs in the future. On behalf of the Construction Specifier and Henry, a Carlisle company, thank you again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.